So this is where it's more difficult to predict, and that's where so many people try to get on the number of chairs and so on, and trying to bring some functional component. And again, the more the child is in the real world, the more they try, even themselves, to force themselves or to recruit themselves in going into function. And that often becomes this trouble in getting through the freedoms. But the main component of the freedoms is always, if we get back to the whole emotional, mental and so on, the main component of the freedom is at the level of the head, neck, eyes, and the ear. So that's the relationship between the internal and external senses, kinesthetic, and the vestibular function. See, let me put this into a very simple and practical word. Head control, eyes control, the ability to track, the ability not to get troubled, or the eyes, the vision means the visual, right? So visual control, and the hearing control. Let's put it like this. How much is it worth? How much does it cost? What's the effort which is worthy of getting this? Is this a small price or is this a big price? If you spend 3 or 4 years on building the head and neck control and the stability of the eyes, is it too long or is it actually a really good timeline? See, that's really a very big and practical question, because very often when it comes to the level 4 and 5 children, what do we get? See, how many years have we been doing ABR? Oh, and then comes 3, 4, 5, 6 years and so on. And what is your achievement? And then parents start describing these components. Well, she is pain-free, she can track, she has the head control, she can track, she can eat, and etc. But then it's all described like all these components of the freedoms are being described well, but she can't sit yet on her own, she can't stand, she doesn't control the hands, so, and then the person from the outset asked this question, like, was it a worthy thing? Like, maybe you should have done something else, like, where is the function there? So that's really becoming the central question. The central question is that the epicenter of the stability is the position of the head, the control of the head. This is where you've got the main receptors, and the fact that your child develops the ability to track, to connect, the ability not to shoot, the ability not to lose the head either backwards or forwards. Your child has the ability to not to be disturbed by the sounds. That means that in order to get there, you need to develop the dissociation of the eyes control and the ears control from the vestibular, because first and foremost the ears and the eyes are the components of vestibular control. They're part of the head support system. So in other words, if your neck is very weak, if there is no control there, if there is no control in the mouth and so on, what happens? the eyes are being recruited internally to service this 99.9% of the internal living. To help, the eyeballs are used as the assistants to the vestibular function. That's why the child cannot focus. That's why the child cannot track. That's why the child cannot visibly link to the external points. And that's exactly that relationship. 99.9 or maybe 99, right? Versus 0.1. And when we move to the tracking, and when we get to this 99.8 versus now 0.2, which is still not functional, but this is, I'm sorry, but this is like 20 times better than it was. That's freedom. That's where the true difficulty is. And that's why getting the head control, getting the ability to track, getting the ability to counterbalance, dissociating the head position from the shooting arms and so on, this is really critical. That's the essence of it for the level 5 child. And therefore, if I'm getting back to my example here, right, so what is my central point with this level 5 child? What I want to see in her? I want to see in her the reduction of the muscle tone spikes. I want to see the reduction of all sorts of the panic reactions. I want to see in her the ability to come to be less easily provoked and at the same time to calm down easier. I want to get her, improve her comfort in dressing. I want to see the improved, situation with the digestion, respiration, and bowel movements. And I want to see little by little her greater response with the externalization of the eyes. And of course here in this list I also want to see her better distinction between the tactile and kinesthetic, means the surface versus 2D touches versus the 3D touches. I want to see her ability to deal with the one-dimensional thing, so it would be lesser resistance upon the attempts to move the hands and the arms, right? So you see, I want to see here improvement of the underlying tone and capacity of the torso and so on. This is a whole list of things that I want to see there. But on a visible level, all this is not going to contribute much to the visible function. It's going to be the freedom. And that's where we move to the next scenario. The next scenario, that's the one which is more, I don't want to say difficult, but it has next kind of timeline to it. You see, I'm looking here at this kid age. So what happens to this kid? On the one hand, we can see that at the level of freedoms, he is doing quite well. He knows how to discharge his tensions. He deals well with the whole eating, bowel movement, respiration thing. He's actually, quite content with all sorts of contexts and so on. He lives in his own special world. But then, on top of this, we have 3-4 super disconnects. And as he grows, that comes as the deformities. And now, within these deformities, to come out of these deformities, we have to see the range. This is the range of the pains. Pains, deformities have the potential to lead to pains. That's pains that takes away freedoms. So therefore, whenever we talk about the super disconnects and the surrounding super protections, either the super disconnects or the super protections, as the spastic muscles and so on, or the disconnected joints, they could hurt. That's the number one thing for us, to make sure that we are on top of it, that we have the tools to handle this potential discomforts. And again, the good thing is, within ABR, this part, the one that links to the pains level, we are covering very well. You know, we have dozens and dozens of cases who, you know, of the situations when children, you know, with the growth spurt and so on, you know, this level 5 kids, they had these troubles and so on, you know, irregular and disproportional growth. We can always handle it within a space of the few weeks. So it's not the question of surgery there, right? So pains we handle very well. But getting out of this super disconnects, that's the thing that could be very, shall I say, very gradual. Very gradual, and it could be boring and it's difficult to predict, right? So you see, we talk about this kid, for example, and, you know, let's say the ankle. He just happened to have the super disconnected ankle. But what I want to remind, well, the ankle here is 7 bones. And if you add the metatarsals here, right, that's another 5 bones. And if you add the phalanx and so on, so but even if we look here, these bones and then these 2 bones. So that's at least 14 bones here in this ankle disconnect package. Not to mention all sorts of ligaments, retinacula and all kind of tendon sheaths and, you know, the bursa and all these finer connections which are actually making them work together. So just physically getting out of those super disconnects, that's difficult. That's taking time, and that's, you know, like where you have to invest and build, and the progress increments, the visible progress increments here are much slower. On the other hand, I can say, well, ABR is the only tool that is capable of building over those super disconnects. But this is the part where we move into this more difficult territory. Because you see, for me, it's like this. What we are able to do and what am I proud of? I'm proud of that even for level 5 kids, including the level 4, of course, and level 3, level 3, we are able to build the freedoms. Control of the head, control of the eyes, tracking, sensory independence, general comfort through life. That's what we're showing over and over and over. And the visible functional part of it is that when the child is able to handle the position, that's, sitting on the edge of the bench with one hand support and can look around, right, and kind of move back and forth, That's freedom. That's freedom from which you can build a lot. But then, of course, we have additional points here. How to connect the hands, especially if they're super disconnected. How to connect the feet if they're super disconnected. Also there, you can have the super disconnected, they have elbow, knee, and then all the way to the hip, shoulder, right? So you see, that's also the legs, arms. They can have those super disconnects, and it could be a certain big time outlay to build. So, but building the freedoms from the connection side, we are doing very well in this. Now, when it comes to the pain prevention, even in the most severe cases, we are doing very well. Because pain prevention doesn't require the correction of the deformity and achievement of straightness. It's just like you build 10, 15, 20% of connection, it's going to be pain-free. When it comes to the milder kids, like level 2, we are doing very well. Because here, the freedoms directly lead to function. We build the freedoms, and that gives functional boost, which is better, which is like way above what the functional training is able to give. So the question which is sort of the least obvious here is this intersection of the two things. Is the intersection of the level 3, 4, and 5 situations when you've got the child who has the special world as part of the freedom building and has the super disconnects. This is where, and of course they could be peripheral, but the super disconnects could also be within the spine, right? So that's where the situation requires much cleaner and much more specific evaluation when we have to talk really on a case by case and the situation basis. And that's where I'm trying to bring the maximum sophistication and the specificity to find, who leads whom, how we can zoom, what would be the leading things. And I must say that, especially if I look at the last couple of years, we are consistently getting better. I mean, I'm getting more and more of those responses with the new techniques, with the consistency of the wrappings, with the addition of the oscillatory upgrades, and I'm looking a lot for the new, and also the new techniques, the vibro techniques. We are really opening the new opportunities there to deal with the super disconnects. And then, as I was talking today about the case A, that has been extremely encouraging, right? So you see the child with whom we've been fighting with this super disconnects for say 6-7 years, and then finally having a big breakthrough there, getting them out of that super collapse. Great effects. Even this kid H, in the super disconnect part with his feet, we've been able to see some steps of progress, not as visible to the outside observer, but in that sense, the knee is a kind of simpler thing, right? It's one bone connecting to the other two, so it's 3 bones interacting there, not 12. But overall, if I ask myself what I want to work, where I want to get better, where I'm striving for the development of the new tools, it's these areas. How we can get this deal with the super disconnects. So how we can overcome those, how we can build those links close. And that's the journey. That's the journey. That's where I'm trying to continuously get better. look around everywhere for the conceptual, clues, for the technical clues, trying all sorts of tools, repurposing them from the other fields, and on the practical scale, that's the thing. So that's what I'm looking for if we are talking about the personal communication and so on, especially here in the families for the ABR America. So I'm looking for that thing, so that our communication would really zoom very clearly on these domains. What are the worlds that your children are in? What are those special super disconnects? What freedoms we are building? How far, what kind of risks and potential vulnerabilities those freedoms have? What kind of budgets you are realistically able to put? Is it, ongoing budget, some extra push budget and so on? So this is what we are going to discuss in order to make that program as tailor-made and as specific to you as possible. So it's already getting late, right? And it's been a long lecture as always, but I hope that discussing these matters of the size of the prize, I at least brought the questions and some considerations that are going to be helpful for you in evaluating the entire thing, evaluating why and what you're doing, and potentially looking at how this could be done better. Thank you very much for your attention. All the best, and I'm looking forward for our future personal communication. Bye.